Hey, are you a fan of jets? Do you like racing? Do you love using heavy explosives to torment your friends? Are you prone to getting motion sick? Do you like comparing yourself to others and getting disappointed at how much worse you are? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then I must ask, have you ever heard of Jetborne Racing? Picture this with me. Imagine Mario Kart, but it's only the gliding sections, and instead of a glider, you attached twin turbine jet engines capable of going Mach 2 while missiles and lasers are at play. To put it more formally, Jetborne Racing is a PC VR racing game with a max of 8 players where you fly jets through cramped spaces and use items to literally and figuratively destroy your opponents. Sounds awesome, right? That's because it is. Being part of the racing genre, this game is about as complex as first grade math, and so to explain literally everything this game has to offer, I'd like to start by splitting this game into 4 sections: the plane, the maps, the items, and the competition. We'll start with the plane. Loading into a race, you'll be piloting a D4V-3, better known as Dave. You'll notice it's a little less complicated than an actual fighter jet, and so we'll focus on the 4 things you need to worry about: the throttle, your HUD, the dash, and the flight stick. The throttle is easy. Push forward to go faster, pull back to go slower, and push the trigger at the front to air brake. The HUD is shown only through the window in the front and shows speed, thrust, brake, which direction is up, and most importantly, where your aircraft is actually pointed in relation to where you want it to go. The dashboard hosts a few important tools like the minimap, your placement in the race, leaderboards, flight logs, and the time splits. Now the flight stick comes in 2 flavors, joystick and gamer. I've noticed joystick mode is a bit more sensitive to movement, so I don't use it. But God forbid anyone walks in on you while using gamer mode. You control it how you think you would. Pull left to roll left, right to roll right, push forward to go down, pull back to go up, and if you want to get advanced, you can also twist it for very minor side movements. There's a button on top that's for speaking to other pilots, but I tend to turn that off.
Hey bro, watch your jet. Watch your jet, bro.
Also, I would highly recommend using the lowest sensitivity possible due to how easily you can throw yourself into a wall with the slightest hand jitter. There's also a trigger, but more on that later. And by later, I mean now. Let's talk about the items. Pulling the trigger will activate any stored item you have. You get a random item every time you fly through one of these energy octahedrons, and the item you get is affected by what place you're in. First place will only get shields and mines, while lower places get the fun stuff like guns and missiles. You will be made painfully aware when someone behind you has one. Now there's only a few items, so let's do a rapid fire round. Shields take no damage for a few seconds. Laser mines, when they hit a surface, they'll place a laser in the orientation you drop them in. EMP mines get too close and they send out a pulse that makes your plane temporarily short out. Normal mines get too close and you die. Boost accelerates you extremely quick, don't crash. EMP Nova, same thing as the EMP mine, but in a radius around yourself. Gun. Missile, look directly at your target and pull the trigger. The rest is self-explanatory. Unless it misses! EMP drone. EMP mine with a rocket strapped to it that seeks out first place. Tractor beam, slows the target down a lot and slingshots you forward. King killer drone, giant missile that seeks out first place with a large blast radius. G-Suit Plus, allows you to withstand higher G-forces for a longer amount of time. And that will conclude our rapid fire round. All of the items are designed to make your fellow racers' lives significantly harder, and boy do they succeed. There's really nothing else to the items, so let's move on to the maps. This game offers 8 maps that are categorized into 3 tiers of difficulty. Each map gets significantly harder and more cramped as you progress through them. They range from a mild stroll through the park to playing DDR with a joystick in the middle of a How It's Made episode. The beginner maps are definitely good for practicing your skills and can be nice to warm up in or just mess around with other pilots. The intermediate maps are where the actual challenge begins, but aren't so hard that you'll be crashing over and over. I think these are the best maps the game has to offer for that exact reason. Mineshaft is my favorite because of its unique wide open vertical sections that are fun to fly through. The advanced maps are where you'll be spending a lot of time on, and by that I mean you'll be crashing. A lot. At least on your first few runs. While Mountain Pass and Underwater have consecutive pinpoint turns, Infrastructure has those and obstacles in the middle of the course. The final 3 maps require complete mastery over your aircraft to do quickly and smoothly, and that's not taking into account playing with other people with items, but unfortunately I don't have enough friends who play this game to actually get footage of that, but I assume it's a horrible experience. Despite the difficulty, all 8 maps are a pleasure to fly in once you get the hang of your aircraft, and it's fun to see how fast you can push any given corner before blacking out. And speaking of speed actually, this is still a racing game, which implies some form of competition. So let's talk about that. I'd like to start off by saying the competition in this game is entirely artificial, and I use the word incredibly lightly as the only people you'll be competing with are your friends or the occasional one other person that plays this game. I mean, this isn't Trackmania for God's sake. If you were expecting this game to have a thriving competitive community, first of all, I'm sorry, and second of all, you might want to look elsewhere. And if you don't believe me, just take a look at how the world record for each map is held by this same person. If this game was active, the leaderboards would be fluctuating constantly. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about the actual racing aspect of the game for a second. When hosting a match, you can choose to toggle items on or off and tinker with some other settings to get some variety out of your races. As we discussed, items are a game changer, and if used right, will always secure you the win. But if all else fails, there is plane collision, which I heavily encourage. There are also a few mechanics that I left out until now that do affect the way you look at maps. You may have heard me say how G-forces are a thing to consider in this game, and if it weren't for them, you'd be taking every corner as fast as your plane would allow. Right under your speed, there's a number showing how many Gs you're taking. Take too many for too long, and you risk blacking out for a bit, which blinds and deafens you, making it impossible to tell where you are, guaranteeing a crash 9 times out of 10. Though the one time it doesn't kill you makes for great time. You can also red out, where instead of undertaking multiple Gs, you take on negative Gs, which is just a fancy way of saying all the blood in your body is now in your brain. I'm not exactly sure what this redding does. I think it makes it harder to control your plane, but then again, I'm not sure. So now you'd probably think, well, if I can't take turns fast, might as well play it safe and take them slow, right? While that does have merit, take a tight turn too slow and you won't be moving forward fast enough and your plane will stall, likely causing a crash. These 3 mechanics heavily alter how you fly in any given map and, especially in the advanced maps, requires quite a bit of speed control to handle correctly. There's generally a sweet spot to take corners, as with lower speeds you stall but can turn tighter, and higher speeds are faster, but it gets harder to turn the faster you are. Hopefully, mastering all of these techniques and item usage nets you a shiny gold trophy. But there is a reward greater than that for early finishers. Upon completing a multiplayer race, you will be put into spectator booths on the sidelines that you can freely switch between to watch your fellow racers struggle. And if you're feeling like a bit of tomfoolery is in order, you are supplied with miniguns with infinite ammo. Use these to shoot down your fellow racers and make that turn they're struggling on just that much harder. I truly believe more racing games should have this feature. It would make them much better. Anyway, after everyone completes the race, or God forbid they DNF, you get your shiny trophy, and you get to shove it in their faces. Just expect the same level of treatment to be shown to you. And with that, if anyone ever asks you if you've ever heard of Jetborne Racing, now you can tell them you have. Thanks for watching.